All right, Glory, come on in.
Check the internet over here.
All right. So I'm hoping you all see this screen. It shouldn't be on silence. Let's go back a little bit. Because what we were starting on, we finished attending and then we started in on rapport building last time that we were discussing the content of the class before we went into all of our conversations on assignments. And so again, this Wednesday, we're going to do a survey. Please do it on Tuesday. I'll adjust the assignments and then we'll figure out what we're going to do for the rest of the semester assignment wise. Okay. So, but let's go into, hold on just a sec. Okay. We were talking about rapport building in the last time that we were discussing developing our skills. And so I just kind of want to go over some of these ideas that we started with. And this is, if I were to define the most important part of developing rapport with your clients, you can have as much knowledge you want about your culture, about addiction, if that's the area you're going into, mental health, trauma. You can have all the knowledge in the world. But if you're unable to rapport build, all of that knowledge doesn't go anywhere. And this is why it's an important component of this class, because I have known very, very intelligent people who understood the knowledge from education. They understood the community that they were serving. They understood the research. They understood everything. But they were horrible providers because despite all that knowledge that they had, they could not connect with the client that was in front of them. They couldn't make this connection to make it so all of their knowledge, all of their experience could actually make a difference in someone's life. So this is the important part of rapport building. And if there's anything out of this class that I want you to go away with, it is this section, plus the section on silence. But let's get through this one first. So let's talk about rapport. And we started on this conversation before. And this is, again, going on rehearsal. This is about building that initial relationship, that initial connection with someone else. Okay. And it helps, and rapport will be helped and facilitated by how counselors manages their feelings towards clients and how they behave with clients. And so I've been asked this question many times when I've done therapy. I've been asked Mr. or Doctor or Curtis or Mr. Peters, whatever it is at that time in my life at stage. And they've asked, you've gone through this group with us. You've done all of this. Are you an addict too? Are you, did you go through trauma where you were abused? Have you come from violent relationships? And the answer to that is no. Okay, I want you to think about that answer that I just provided all of you. Okay, so here's this individual, knowledge, experience with clients and what's going on in the world. They understand their community, which I did a lot of research on. I did all of those things. But did I experience what they experienced? The answer is no. No, I didn't. At that point in my life, no.
He's a good person.
And they always ask then, well,
Friend
why do you understand us then?
was a little bit
And
unclear.
this is the important part about rapport building that I want everyone to get.
And now things are changing and knowing Rick, he's gonna be like.
All right, someone needs to mute.
But I'm a little bit scared for my.
Jamie,
Yeah, we got her.
A very long time ago that I was gay.
Okay, I think we got Jamie taken care of. Thank you. So, and this is the issue that we all have to deal with. A lot of people get into our field because they had addiction issues. They had mental health issues. They had trauma, domestic violence, child abuse, all of those things. And they're all experiences that we may have had because that's what motivated us to go in this field. And this is the important part of this story that I want everyone to listen to. Because we went into this field because we were abused, or because had an addiction, or because we had all of these issues. That does not mean that you are the expert on your client. I want to repeat that again. That does not mean because you had addiction issues, you had home violence issues, you had childhood issues, you had trauma. That doesn't mean that the client walking into your group setting had the same experience that you had, and that does not make you the expert on them.
Doesn't that just mean that we could just relate more to their experience?
It does mean that, yes, Christopher. So thank you for bringing this up because so I'm going to back down from that statement just a little bit. Okay. Christopher, so if you have those issues and you're going into the field, you're doing it because you have the empathy and understanding what people go through on that physical, emotional cycle. Christopher, you make a very good point. That yes, if you have experience, does it make it so when a client says, gosh, I'm going through this, can you relate to it better? Absolutely. Does it mean you had to experience it to go into this field? If you didn't experience it to go into this field, you need to rely on your education, you need to rely on your knowledge, and you need to rely on your community. So there's benefit risk for both situations. In what Christopher brought up, he brought up an excellent point. Because what Christopher is saying, going back to when we talked about emotional intelligence, someone that has experienced that before, and now they're in the field to help people, does that help with their
like a peer support.
intelligence? Yes, absolutely. And so, Christopher, yes, you're absolutely right. Maxine, you have your hand up.
Like a peer support would do.
Yeah, so peer support. So, okay,
Somewhat similar to that.
yeah, I want to bring up peer support programs because they are awesome. Okay, if the peer is matched with the peer that has that had the same intensity of diagnosis that the peer supporter had. So, and Maxine, I'm glad you brought up this point because this is going to emphasize the point we're trying to make here. When I was in Montana, working for University of Montana, Helena College, I was asked to be the statistician on the statewide program that did peer support programs. And what they wanted to do is figure out if peer support programs were effective in relieving the symptoms and all that of people who were suffering from mental health and addiction issues. Okay, so this is what I was brought into, and I think this is a thank you, Maxine, for bringing this up. So over 2 years, I got this huge amount of data on symptom relief, quality of life, how much better. There were over 10 different measures that participants of this group every couple months had to come in and they had to report on all of these different elements of well-being. I'll just do well-being as the example. Okay, this is where, again, going back to the point about emotional intelligence and being a good provider, is that what we found in the peer support programs is that peer support programs work with people with mild to moderate symptoms. I'm going to repeat that again. This is what the research showed on multiple measures. Peer support program work for people with mild to moderate symptoms. But when it came to an individual with severe symptoms, it actually made them worse. Their quality of life, their symptoms, their addiction, all of that in that peer support system, it made all of their symptoms worse, not better. Okay, so I want you to think about that when we're doing these services from our own peer perspective. Are we relaying our peer ideas? Because this is what the program is based upon. And by putting our own ideas on someone else on a peer support level, are we making them better or are we making them worse? And according to research, well, at least the one I did over multiple years, we have to be very careful about when we utilize our experience as it relates to other people's experience. And this is, I'm hoping this is what this class is emphasizing, that yes, your experience is important. It's what brought you here today. It's what giving you the motivation, the tools to make other people's lives better. But, and there's always a but, you also, there's required education because we come to the realization that if you just let people who have the empathy that I know you all have, the experiences you all have, into helping other people without making that managed contradiction between my experience and someone else's experience, that it can completely fail. Okay, so I'm going to bring up the state of Montana. Now on their peer support programs, they actually require, not college level, but they require their peer support people to go through even more classes than what they required before. Classes much like this one that says, I have my experience. It makes me empathize. It makes me want to connect with those who had the same issue, and I want them to heal too. But they have their own journey, they have their own experience, and in order to be an effective helper, I need to listen to their experience without filtering it with my experience. Does that make sense? I'm getting to the silent section, so I'm counting to 20.
Yes, it makes sense.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, so with rapport building, what we're asking you to do is bring your qualities of emotional intelligence with you, but then it's about making a connection with someone that, yes, if they did addiction, if they trauma, all of those things that you went through, that you could set yours aside and become connected with that individual because, yes, you have this common experience, but their experience matters more. Okay. And I'm going to say that again. Yes, Christopher, everyone, is it awesome that you're in this field because you've experienced addiction, domestic violence, trauma? Yes, it is. And it's an important component because it'll keep you motivated. But when we're doing rapport building, our experience goes to the back of the shelf. It goes to the back of our experience. And the rapport is about learning about the client, learning about them, what they went through, what their experience was, and not putting our own ideas, issues, religion, faith, I any of those on top of that. Okay. So I just wanted to bring this very important point up at this point. Okay. Because again, I'm just going to bring this up one more time. Christopher is right that emotional intelligence provides that has had the same experience with someone increases their emotional intelligence that allows them to feel what their clients are feeling and relate with them. But I'm just going to say this again. Some of the most effective therapists and group facilitators that I've worked with never had an experience with what they were treating. They just wanted to understand someone else's experience and use what they've learned to try and help that person. Okay. So please don't go away from this lecture thinking, well, he said if I have the same trauma, I shouldn't. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying set your trauma aside, use that to then connect with your client and learn what they experienced for their sake, for their purpose, for who they are. Because that connection you have with them will make it so you show up each week. So you want to be there. You want to do that. You want to be in this field. Okay, I think I blittered. I think I made this point. I hope, anyways. All right. So let's just go on with rapport building and let's just go on to the few stages about it. Being well prepared for a session. This means that you feel unrushed, calm, ready, and prepared to be there with your clients. All right. This is where I would encourage everyone to not work for an agency. I'm just going to bring this up because when we work for an agency, and if you need to do that, you need to do that. They're going to load your case files to where you're busy from the time you get there to the time you go to bed. Literally. All right. The standard is, and I'm just going to put this out there for you all. If you work an 8-hour day, you do not do more than 3 to 4 sessions during that 8-hour day. That is best practice. Because in that 8-hour day, what does that allow you to do? It allows you to go from group 1 in the morning, complete it, decompress from it, make your notes, do all of those things you need, and then get ready for group 2 or client 2. Okay. So when I'm talking about being well prepared for the session, this is in a perfect world. This is where you have control over your client load and when you do sessions and when you do all of those things. So I just want to just make that point. Make a trusting and safe environment. Okay. This means, again, we've talked about this in the class. This is when you allow the clients to feel safe where they are. This is where you allow them to set up the room. This is where you allow them to be where they want to be.